At the beginning of the movie, two girls named Hunter and Becky are stuck on a really tall tower, way up high at 2,000 meters. They try calling for help, but their phones don't work because they're too high up in the sky. To make things worse, the tower is in the middle of a desert, so nobody can see them to help. Plus, some vultures start attacking them. If they fall asleep, they'll fall and get hurt. Then, the story goes back in time to when Becky, her friend Hunter, and her partner Dan were climbing rocks. Everything seems fun until Dan finds a hole and puts his hand inside. Suddenly, a bird comes out, and Dan falls down and gets tangled in the rope. Becky and Hunter try to help him, but the rope breaks, and Dan falls and dies. Later, 51 weeks pass, and Becky is still sad about what happened. She drinks a lot and feels really down. Becky's dad, James, worries about her and tries to cheer her up. But she doesn't listen. One night, she thinks about taking too much medicine to end her life. Just then, Hunter calls her after a long time. The next day, Hunter goes to see Becky and tells her about her plan to climb the B67 TV tower. She invites Becky to join her, suggesting they can relive the adventures they've missed. Becky, still feeling the pain, isn't interested at first. However, the next morning, as she thinks back on her time with Dan, she changes her mind and decides to climb the tower in his memory. They head to the tower together. Along the way, Becky sees some old photos of Hunter on her phone. As she looks through them, she notices one with a man's hand on Hunter. But Hunter doesn't say anything about it. Becky's father calls, but she ignores the call. After a long drive, they stop at a motel for the night. During dinner, Becky finds out that Hunter is now a vlogger and makes enough money to travel to different places. As they approach the TV tower, which is the fourth tallest structure in the United States. Becky and Hunter get back in their car the next morning to continue their journey. Hunter starts driving and recording her vlogs, talking to her viewers about the 2,000-foot-tall tower. While focused on the vlog, they almost crash into a truck. Eventually, they reach the area around the tower, but the gate is closed with a danger sign. Even so, they decide to leave their car behind and start walking through the deserted land. Along the way, they see vultures feasting on animal carcasses, which Hunter captures in her vlog. She also posts a photo of the animal on social media, where it quickly gets many likes. Shortly after, they reach the tower, and Hunter resumes her vlogging. However, Becky becomes scared of climbing when reminded of her past. She thinks about giving up, but Hunter encourages her to confront her fears. Hunter connects her rope to Becky's and starts climbing up the ladder inside the tower. The whole tower looks rusty. The ladder seems unstable, and the nuts and bolts are loose. While Becky climbs, one of the metal rods on the ladder breaks, frightening her. Despite this, she gathers her courage and continues her ascent. Eventually, they reach the halfway point and notice that the city below looks like a toy town. They take a short break, drink water, and then continue their climb. After some time, they reach a height of 1,800 feet, leaving only 200 feet to climb on the ladder outside the tower. Becky is terrified by the wind, height, and the rusty condition of the tower. She asks Hunter to go back, but Hunter insists they keep going. They start climbing the outside ladder, which seems even riskier than the one inside. Soon, they encounter obstacles on the ladder and have to maneuver around them. Hunter easily handles the challenge and helps Becky pass through it. The wind gets stronger as they climb, intensifying Becky's fear. When Hunter notices this, she jokingly shakes the ladder, causing one of the nut bolts to fall out. Thankfully, it doesn't affect their climb, and they continue upward. Another nut bolt falls off before they reach the top. Finally, they reach the peak and start taking photos and videos. However, Hunter isn't satisfied and decides to use her drone for better shots. She gives Becky control of the drone and hangs herself from the ledge to get attention. Then, she climbs back up and encourages Becky to do the same. When the latter hears this, she is taken aback and refuses to comply. However, Hunter persuades her, insisting it's the only way for Becky to overcome her fear. Becky hesitantly takes Hunter's hand and slowly lowers herself from the tower's ledge. At the same time, Hunter takes some selfies and pulls Becky up before her grip slips. After this, Becky scatters Dan's ashes and bids him a final goodbye, creating an emotional moment for both of them. Now, they decide to descend, so they secure their harnesses and Becky goes first. But as soon as she starts climbing down, the ladder breaks, causing her to fall. Fortunately, Hunter grabs the rope and manages to pull Becky up. After the near-death experience, they both laugh uncontrollably. However, their laughter quickly fades when they realize that the ladders have disappeared. They check their phones, but there's no signal. They also notice that their bag, which contains water and supplies, has fallen on the disc below. Inside the tower, they find binoculars and a flare gun, but they realize they're useless in this situation. Becky starts to panic, but Hunter reassures her, suggesting that someone might have heard the sound of the ladder falling and will come to help. She convinces Becky to wait for assistance. While they brainstorm ideas to escape, Hunter notices a large cut on Becky's leg from the previous fall. She quickly ties her shirt around the wound to stop the bleeding. After some time passes, Becky starts interviewing Hunter, asking her why she started vlogging. Hunter reveals that she began vlogging because of Dan, sparking suspicion in Becky's mind. A few hours later, Hunter checks her phone and remembers posting the picture of the animal earlier. She believes there might be a signal at a certain height. She gets an idea and prepares a distress signal. Tying her phone to the rope, she sends it down, hoping it will catch a signal and upload her post. Unfortunately, their attempt fails. Despite this setback, they remain confident that there's a signal at the base and decide to throw the phone down again to upload the help post. Hunter puts her phone into her shoe, pads it with socks and a push-up bra, and they toss the shoe down, waiting anxiously. During this time, Becky notices a tattoo on Hunter's feet that reads 143, a code Dan used to express his love. Soon after, Hunter spots a man and a dog at the tower's base. They scream for help, but their voices go unheard. Hunter's phone is destroyed, indicating their plan has failed. As the man prepares to leave, Becky throws their shoes in an attempt to get his attention, but it doesn't work. She considers using the flare gun, but Hunter stops her, knowing it won't be visible during the day. Later, they notice another man and realize they're there for a party. They plan to use the flare gun at night when it'll be more visible. When night falls, Becky fires the flare gun. Fortunately, the men notice the flare and see the girls waving for help. They quickly approach Hunter's car, making the girls overjoyed. However, instead of saving them, the men steal their car and drive away. This breaks the girls from inside, and now they have to find a new solution quickly. Later, Becky inquires about Hunter's tattoo, to which the latter reveals that she had an affair with Dan for 6 months. She then apologizes to Becky for falling in love with her guy and making a huge mistake. She claims she was drawn to Dan because, unlike other men, he used to listen to her. She loved him, but she loved Becky more, and as a result, she ended their affair. Hearing this, Becky is disappointed that her own friend and partner had betrayed her. The next morning, Becky's phone alarm goes off, indicating that it's been 24 hours since they threw Hunter's phone. Since they're extremely thirsty, Hunter decides to go down to the disc to get their bag. Hunter ties one end of the rope to the tower and the other end to her body. She descends but can't reach the disc. With no choice left, Hunter releases her harness, hangs onto the rope with one hand, and swings to the disc. She retrieves the bag, drinks water, then uses her selfie stick to hook the bag onto the rope. Becky pulls while Hunter climbs up. As Hunter nears the top, her hands slip, and Becky's heart skips a beat. Fortunately, Hunter holds onto the bag. Despite injuring her hand, Becky pulls her up with all her strength. Later, Becky writes a help note, attaches it to their drone, and plans to send it to the motel for assistance. Unfortunately, the drone's battery is too low to travel far, so they have to bring it back. After several failed attempts, they feel helpless once again. That night, Becky has a terrifying dream about vultures attacking Hunter's body, but she wakes up to the reality that it was just a nightmare. The next morning, Becky realizes they can charge the drone using the tower lights. She climbs up the pole and plugs in the charger, but it's too loose. She has to hold on to it until it's fully charged. Despite the heat and vulture attacks, she perseveres, but accidentally drops the bag from the tower. After charging the drone, Becky launches it towards the motel, but a truck collides with it, destroying it completely. Devastated, they see no other option. Later, a storm complicates their survival. Becky is exhausted, but Hunter forbids her from sleeping, fearing vulture attacks. Becky asks for Hunter's shoe to throw her phone down again, but Hunter reveals she lost the bag during the previous fall, which contained her shoe. Instead, she fell on the disc and died. Becky has been surviving alone since then, but sadly, she's been hallucinating Hunter's presence all this time. During the night, Becky manages to survive the storm and records a video message for her father, expressing her wish to return home. Meanwhile, James is concerned for her well-being. The next day, a vulture notices Becky's defenselessness and begins eating her wounds. In a desperate act of survival, Becky grabs the vulture and strikes its head against the metal surface, killing it. She then eats the vulture's flesh to sustain herself. After gaining some energy, she ties herself with the rope and jumps down to the disc where Hunter's body lies. She sends a message to James and places her phone in Hunter's shoe. Then, she puts the shoe inside Hunter's body and throws it down. Later that night, James receives the message and calls 911. He rushes to the scene and discovers the body being transferred. Initially thinking it's Becky's body, he sobs in despair. However, he's soon relieved to find his daughter alive. Finally, father and daughter reunite in an emotional moment. That concludes the video.